Welcome to the Walaway. This is Imran Nanlawala, and I'm gonna have a special guest on in a second. Oh, there she is, Julianna. How you doing?
Good. I needed to maybe get out on the street where I had more light instead of my garage. Can you hear me okay?
It's just perfect.
Okay.
Seeing the familiar Chicago scenery in the background.
Yeah, that's I-90 right behind me.
The famous I-90. It's I-90, and it'll take about 90 minutes to get about 9 miles. So yeah.
Anywhere you need to go, an hour guaranteed.
How you doing? How's your trip? Coming back from where you came back from?
I just came back from Las Vegas. I got in on Saturday night at like 11 p.m. and I'm just trying to get back into the swing of things. I'm just trying to get back into training and just getting back on my routine with Issa in school and just getting back to my regular self. You know, it was so awesome to coach the Ultimate Fighter, but it was also like very stressful because like I just wanted to like focus on myself and like what I need to do and what I need to work on. So it's been good to be back home and get back into like the routine of my everyday normal life. You know what I mean?
So do you think like then becoming more busy or having more things thrown on your plate actually makes you more disciplined with your time? Is it like now you have to be disciplined, so it forces you to be disciplined?
I mean, for example, I trained with the team like every day, and if I wasn't training with them on the weekends, I was still sparring with the team that I had brought down there. But yeah, absolutely. One big realization is that was a lot of work. I was filming 4 to 5 hours a day every single day, and so it just really took away from the personal time that I use. You know, MMA, for example, although it takes a village to get you to the octagon, it is an individual sport. And so it's like I am the individual that needs to be working and be focusing on just what I need to be doing. And so to transition for, you know, taking the focus off of myself and putting it onto the team was something that it was harder than I expected. I'll put it that way.
So then on that note, like I had a question for you, like what is the difference in terms of mindset, approach, whatever you can reveal? Obviously don't reveal something you can't, but like does it mentally, physically feel different to go from the challenger to being the challenged, like when it comes to approaching the fight?
To me, I still feel like the challenger, like
Okay.
absolutely. And I think that like that needs to stay like that forever. Like I need to always feel like the challenger, because you know I was trying so hard for so long to get to this position where I'm finally able to, you know, take a shot at the king. And once you get to that position, some people would be content to stay there and
Mm.
happy to stay there. I'm not content to stay there, and I don't feel like my job is done. I feel like now that I got that target on my back, which is what I was gunning for the entire time, now everything starts back over again, and now is the time to, you know, hit a different level that I wasn't on before, which is just only title. Purely for me, that other level is just a title. Somebody just threw something onto your name, but it absolutely, to me, doesn't hold a lot of weight in my life and in my training life, because I still feel like the challenger. I still feel like I need to work just as hard, if not harder. And I just need to, you know, put in that mat time and do everything in my power possible to retain the title, which is what I'm going to do, which is what I just got done doing.
Yeah, it was great because when we had you on last time, I don't think the fight was official at that point. And I know
Yeah,
it wasn't, right?
I don't think it was. I don't think it
No.
was.
And then I know we were calling out Amanda, and you were talking essentially about them ducking you, and there was a lot of confidence, and obviously you showed that during the fight. It went, I think, eerily the way you said or foreshadowed some years prior in terms of making it into a dogfight. So on that note, in a previous interview, you talked about growing up and having to deal with something you referred to as sock bombs. So is that the correct term?
Yes, sock bombs. Anybody that grew up in the 80s will know exactly. They'll know the socks that I'm talking about. I bet most people that grew up in the 80s didn't have an older brother that was beating them, you know, with a hellacious beating every day with the sock bombs. But yes, that is, you know, a torture device from my childhood.
So it's funny because at the time you probably hated them, and in some ways you probably still hate them. But do you think that this idea of having a tough childhood and, you know, kind of being raised rough and tough, it actually pays dividends much later on in life?
Yeah, like you wouldn't expect me to say it, but I'm like, thanks, brothers and sisters, for beating the crap out of me because now I'm a world champion. You know, like that's like such a weird thing to say, but like it's kind of true. Like I got the tail end of many, many beatings growing up, and I had a very large family where we were constantly together every weekend. We're, you know, roughhousing. And so it wasn't just the tail end beatings from my internal family, it was from like every cousin too, you know, and so that definitely prepared me, I think, to have this type of mentality of like nobody backs baby in the corner. You know what I mean? Because when baby gets backed into a corner, she's going to lash out and she's going to, you know, hulk out and go crazy. And so that's kind of how I always was, where it was like, don't push her, don't push her. Because if you push her, then she's going to go nuts, you know? And so they kind of bred me to be like that, I would say, like a natural born fighter, just from my childhood and just the way that we grew up, always constantly roughhousing.
Yeah, on that note, I don't know if you know, I don't know if I brought this up to you last time. There's a retired football player, or two brothers, Hussein Abdullah. He played with the Vikings. So I was interviewing him some months ago, and I brought your name up to him, and he was saying that his older brother, or him, and your older sister went to school together, and we're in the same grade.
Really?
Yeah, because
That's crazy.
after you won your fight, he said he got a text, and he was like, "Hey, is that such and such's little sister?" And then they were like, "Yeah, that's your little sister." So small
That's
world.
so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a small world. That's awesome. What did you say his name was?
Hussein Abdullah. He played for the Vikings, and then he played for one other team that I cannot remember. And both brothers played for the NFL.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
cool. Did you know that Cooper Kupp is from Yakima, Washington, which is about 2 hours away from Spokane? So he's
Mm.
another guy from the Pacific Northwest doing big things.
Someone just wrote in the comment, Pena versus Chimaev for who's the GOAT.
Shemaev, I don't know. I just took a picture with him. I just posted it yesterday. Remind me of that name again. Abdullah?
Hamza, yeah, Hussein Abdullah.
Okay.
Yeah, Hussein. I'll send it to you. I'll send you his profile. He lives here in the Texas area. Cool guy, really cool guy, giving back to the community, doing a lot of cool things. You know, great family man. So I'll connect you guys. Real awesome dude.
That's great. Awesome. Cool. How have you been? How's it going over there in Texas?
Everything's good. Basketball season wrapped up. I joined.
How'd you guys do?
So I had my own team. We made it to we were like 7-2, and then we lost right, you know, in the first round. And then I started working with a former Division I player, Coach Munir, who played internationally overseas. He played for the national team in Algeria, and I think last year they won they did win last year the national championship for high school, and this year 2 weeks ago they won the state championship in Texas. So I joined their staff very part-time, so that was a lot of fun. It was great to be around a good group of people. They had a private training facility. They have an in-house strength and conditioning coach. They have a skills coach. They have Coach Munir, who's a great basketball mind. And it's a very unique basketball program where all the players, they live together. They're high school age, but they have to live in one house together. A lot of the distractions that could exist are just kind of taken away, and all they're emphasizing is basketball skills. And most of the team is international, right? So they had a Serbian player, a Ukrainian player. They had a couple Egyptian players. Previously, they've had a whole bunch of like Algerian and North African players. They had a Cameroonian player. So it's a very international team, very, very cool experience, and it was great. Just loved it.
That's incredible, and I bet you learned a ton.
So much just from physically being there and kind of absorbing, and then obviously from the conversations even more, but just more than anything, looking at the culture, like seeing what it takes to have a successful championship culture. It was great just to be around those guys, man. Great group of guys, great team. One of the point guard is an Australian on the way, who made his way from Singapore. Then there was a backup point guard who's Japanese. So just the way, these guys didn't grow up together. They're not even from the same culture, but they made it work. And it just shows you like the power of sports and what sports can teach you. And in this regard, even how like it's making these like boys into men, right? By teaching them responsibility, by teaching them accountability. So great program. Shout out to Coach Munir and Bucket in the Dream. But that's about it. Just was in Chicago a couple weeks ago. Came back last week, and that's it. Couple more questions for you, if you're okay with it.
Yeah, sure.
So I think once I took some notes, and I don't know exactly what you said, but I wrote down, if it doesn't make money, it don't make sense. So I don't. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
So elaborate if you don't mind.
So Gilbert Melendez, I was working with him when I was calling fights for Combate Global, and Gil would always say that if it don't make money, it don't make sense. And I'm like, yes, to me that makes 100% sense, you know, especially at this rate. What I mean by that is people see a fighter, so they see like promotion, and they say, well, I have this awesome CBD line, so I'm just going to give you all this product and you're going to promote it on your social media pages. Well, they see that these fighters have a big following, so wouldn't it be great for the, you know, fighter to just take all this free CBD product and post out on their social media? Well, that's not the way it works. You know what I mean? You trade, you do things for value. So you give me the products and pay me money, and then I'll promote your products on my social media pages, which is what you're paying for. You're paying for the platform. And so I think that there's been so many times in my life where people have tried to use me, and it's worked. I've posted things for free, and posting on Instagram is just one example that I'm using. There's other examples that I could use that would also fit the bill. But I just mean to say that your time is valuable, your time is money, your energy is money. And you know, I don't want necessarily to say that you need to be like closed fisted, you know, because, you know, closed fist means nothing can come in and nothing can go out. But I also want you to understand that your time is valuable, your worth is valuable, and so you deserve to be, you know, paid and compensated for that type of any type of service that you give out should be compensated.
Yeah, I think there's a balance, right? There's things that are near and dear to the heart that are more along the charitable lines, whether it's whatever you're close to, right? And you support that, you give your money, your time, your expertise. But then obviously when it comes to other businesses, like you mentioned, wanting to promote their products, there has to be an exchange, some exchange of value. So that makes, like someone just put, know your values, and you know, that makes sense.
Have you ever seen those stupid things on Facebook? And they're not stupid, but like those little things where it's like somebody contracted me out to come build their deck, and they said, you know, well, I'll just build the deck myself, you know, okay, well, you're going to need this and this and this, and you're going to have to know how to do this. And, you know, I went to school this long for this, you know, so I'm giving it to you at the price that it would be, and you're expecting it for free. You know, it's like, forget about it. It's never going to happen, you know? So that's why you pay people to do things for you, is because they're experts.
And again, if your values are there and you're a principled person, you're going to have to find that balance, because then you realize, I only have a finite amount of time where I can do this. And I only have, like, people are only going to be with you as long as they get value too, right? So you also have to make use of the time that you have, because the life of a pro athlete is not as long as someone who's going to decide to be an accountant, right? Or a doctor. Like, they're going to work until their 60s. You guys, you know, you have to do
I got a window this big to jump through. I got a window this big that I got to jump through and fit through in a short amount of time. If I don't, forget about it. You're going to start flipping burgers at Burger King by the time you retire from fighting, because it's over, you know? So I got a short amount of time to capitalize and to make money. And not only that, think about this. Most people get paid a paycheck every month, or they, you know, get a paycheck and, you know, every 2 weeks. I am fighting for a lump sum of cash at one time that I have to hold on to for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? It's not just something that I get paid, you know, every month like a normal person or a normal job. I have to make this last for the rest of my life, you know? And so that's another thing to consider as a young fighter, or even just a fighter in general. Anytime you have an opportunity to make that money, you better make the most of it, and as much as you can, because your window of opportunity is only this big for a fighter.
And it's interesting you mentioned that, because, you know, there's so many famous stories of former NBA players who have gone completely broke. And these guys were like all-stars, you know, made millions of dollars. And there's a famous example, I forgot who it is, working at like Starbucks. There's a famous commentator who used to be a professional commentator. He's working at Starbucks now. So if you don't, not only if you got to make the money, but then you got to figure out what to do with the money, right? Otherwise, that becomes another issue. And then I think what people don't realize when it comes to people in your position is, when you get that paycheck, when it eventually does come in, it has to be split up. It has to go to different entities and different people because you got people to pay too, right?
100%. I got
Yeah.
5 coaches. I got babysitters. I got all sorts of stuff. Like, there's, like I said, it is an individual sport, but it takes a village. It takes a village. I can't do it on my own. I can't get to the octagon on my own. I got a team. I literally have a team. And the team's getting bigger now that, things are going great. I got to pay for a social media team. I got to pay for, a publicist and all sorts of stuff that you wouldn't think that you would have to pay for. But, I do. And so it's all weird.
So how do you
It is like you get money and then you got all these people with their pockets and hands out. They all want your money. You know what I mean? And so it's like, where do I invest it? Where do I put it? Who do I give it to? Who do I trust? You know what I mean? It's scary.
and that's why like we say in our community it's always good to have some uncles around you, right? Like we'll say like it's good to like a bigger brother, but we'll say uncles, some uncles who they've been through things, they got your best interest in mind, and they might have to slap you up a couple of times just to like make sure you understand something. But it's good to have that person in your life that you can kind of trust, who doesn't have a conflict of interest, that they're not saying what they're saying to you because they're trying to get something out of it, but they
Right.
genuinely, number one, they care for you, but they also have the wisdom and insight to tell you, look, like, finite amount of time. Yes, make your money, but put your money here. Don't spend your time there.
Right.
How do you then
Exactly.
how do you balance that then? So for example, if it don't make money, it don't make sense. But then as a person who was at up to a certain point an underdog, right? Because you told your story last time, booty boot camp or whatever, however you referred to it in the Thai boxing or whatever you called it. I forgot what you called it. You know what I'm
It was
talking about.
women's cardio kickboxing class. It wasn't no booty blaster
Sorry,
class
sorry,
because
sorry.
Lord knows I still ain't got no booty.
No.
But yeah, well, it was a women's cardio kickboxing class.
So underdog, right? Because that's not the traditional way that you can come up as a fighter, but you did it, and then you paid your dues, you got your injuries, you did your rehab, you trained, you went from here to there, and then you became champ. Even though many people didn't believe you could, and then even after the fight, the chip is still there because I think many people, like you mentioned, thought it was a fluke or something. So the chip is there, which for us is great because we want to see you win again. But how do you balance ego and then grabbing the bag, right? Because grabbing the bag is strategic. It's like I have to do X, Y, Z to maximize my profits. But then as a person who has the chip and the underdog mentality, sometimes you want the fight. Sometimes you want that challenge, which may not make the most sense. So not just in the UFC sense, but in life, how do you balance those two sides?
I mean, on one half, I would say, well, you can't have an ego, and I have no ego. But then I would straight up be lying to you because that is what has been holding me back in a sense, is my ego. If the picture that the social media team wants to post isn't complete perfection or near my standard, I absolutely don't want to post it. But then because my ego's in the way, my pride is saying, no, that's an ugly picture. But in another sense, it's like I need to keep posting it so that I can get more opportunities and grab the bag, and I need to gain those followers. And if I gain more followers, then I'll get more people interested. They'll want to see the fight. They'll maybe want to endorse me, and I can potentially make more money and get more opportunities. But I can't get those opportunities if I'm shelling myself off by not sharing the content that makes me
Mhm.
uncomfortable, like me hitting mitts or me rolling or me doing that kind of stuff that exposes me and showing my game. And that's what people want to see. That's that content that people are dying for. But my ego is in the way because I don't want to give it up because I feel like somebody's going to get a beat on me or someone's going to know something, or what if they're studying the way that I walk or the way that I throw my punches,
Sure.
and so my ego is definitely in the way of grabbing that bag because I feel like I could expose myself a lot more by, showing people a lot more to me, but my ego is prevent. And see, and that's a great point that you bring up because I need to kill that ego, but it's just, I'm so, it's right here. It's the nut in my throat where I just don't want to let it go. Like my pride is in the way and I need to find a way to release that and to not be so, I guess paranoid would be the word, but at the same time, I feel like me flying under the radar this entire time is kind of what has led me to have success too. So it's almost like how much information are you willing to part with? How much of yourself are you willing to get rid of? And how much are you willing to sacrifice to grow your brand and to grow your business? And for me, I'm like, I'm fine with where I'm at. I really don't. I'm cool. You know what I mean? But am I really? I don't know. I don't think so. I think I could definitely be doing more.
So I'm going to ask you this and then answer it from two perspectives. You know, you
Sure.
think people think of Michael Jordan, people think of Tom Brady, who just came back to the NFL, you know, right? Even though he just retired. So people will look at storybook careers and storybook endings. You know, Michael Jordan, obviously, when he ended with the Bulls, he ended on a championship, and then he came back as an older man. What is the storybook at this point? What does the storybook career and end of career look like to you? And then what does the storybook post fight career look like to you?
For me, I just want to, and this is going to sound horrible, but like I love fighting so much. And right now, my heart doesn't feel content in the sense that I don't feel like I've done enough yet. I want to do enough that I can go down in the Hall of Fame one day. That's what
Mm.
I want. That's my goal. My goal is to go down in the UFC Hall of Fame one day. But and when that happens, then I'll be content. I'll be able to retire and walk away. With that being said, I would just love to make sure that I am still capable to put on great fights. You know what I mean? I don't want to be that person that's fighting where most people are watching the fight being like, they gotta retire. You know what I mean? Like they
Mm.
can't keep fighting like this. Like they're old. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to be, old and decrepit and still being like, I still got it. I don't want to be like that crazy person that's fighting way past their time that they shouldn't be fighting anymore. Um, and then I'll also say, you know, post fight career, like you said, or like I said, I would like to have a career big enough to go down in the Hall of Fame. I would like to still have my hand in MMA in some regard, whether it's calling fights or being a part of the sport matchmaking or having my own promotion or owning a gym one day and having my own dojo. Those are kind of things that I would like to get into, being a business owner, but definitely it involving MMA somehow. I think MMA will always be involved in my life, and it will always be surrounded. It will always surround me, but I want to make sure that post fighting that I'm still involved. I still have my hand in it in some way or the other.
And like you have a little one in the house. Like any plans, any route you like to see her take now that your horizons have expanded and your network has expanded? Are there certain interests you have for her?
Yes, in the sense that I know what I would like for her to do. But
Sure.
in the other sense, it makes me feel selfish to say that like that's the kind of route that I want her to take, because I'm pushing on, how they say that the child or the parent lives vicariously through the
Right.
child. I always wanted to be a singer. I was just never good enough. And I feel like, she sings at the drop of a hat, and you tell her to sing and she'll belt it out in front of everyone. You put a camera in front of her, she's a ham. She's like ready to. So like in the entertainment business of singing or being an actress or something like that, I would love for her to do that. I think she would be great at it. But at the same time, I'm like, is that the kind of route that I want to push my kid in? Because let's just say, for example, she becomes this gigantic superstar that can't even walk down the street like Ariana Grande. You know what I mean? And is that the kind of life that I don't think that that's necessarily a bad life, but just living in that scrutiny public eye that I'm living in. I honestly, I don't know. I just want her to be happy in whatever she chooses to do. And I think that that's the most important thing for me. If she's happy, doing backflips in gymnastics or singing with a microphone in her hand, if she wants to be a doctor one day, whatever makes her happy is what's going to make me happy. So whatever interests she has, I'll back those interests. But I see it all too often, parents living vicariously through their child and pushing their child, and then their child being burnt out. I was just talking to a coach about it today, about a little child that's back is like broken, and I mean she's not even like 10 years old, and or he or she, whatever, it's a child. My point is that when you get pushed so much at such a young age, your body's already broken down so that you wouldn't even be able to, let's say, for example,
Wow.
start fighting when you get older, because you stunted your own growth progress by already breaking yourself down at such a young age, you know. And that's another thing that I don't want to happen for her. Almost like, I don't know if you saw this, but the King Richard with Venus and
Yes.
Serena
Yes.
Williams' dad, he held her back from those juniors games because he just wanted her to just, he knew that she would be successful and be able to turn pro and everything like that. And I didn't finish the movie. I only have like a quarter of it to go. But I think that that was so important for him to do that, because for what? For wrecking her, to get her burnt out, to, you know, have her be not getting anywhere, for winning these junior titles, you know. It was very smart by him. And I see it all too often, and I wish that parents would just chill. You know, he's only 18. Let him develop into his body. Let him get to 18, you know. Let him have a growth spurt, you know. Like, you don't always have to be pushing him so hard. But I say that now. I don't know what I'm going to say if she actually ends up being good at something. You know what I mean? And she shows a direct interest. Maybe I say that now because I'm not in that position. But if she was actually really good, I'd probably be like hammering it for her to be even better, you know? So I don't know. I'm still learning. I'm still learning this whole parenting thing. It's difficult.
Yeah, I think that King Richard example actually is great, because on one side, you know, you say we don't want to live vicariously through our children, but at the same time, I think parents have to be given more credit than we give them in like media and TV and movies. Like sometimes, you know, we reflect and we say maybe our parents could have done something better. But in the case of King Richard, I was gonna say King Julian. I don't know. Like there's like a cartoon the kids watch. In King Richard, like he knew how good his daughters were, right? And he knew what life they could have, but he also understood what discipline needed to be put into their lives. Like, let's be honest, if he's not the dad he was, there's a good chance they don't make it where they made it, right? So at what point does
Never.
at what point is that, like, you know, like LeVar Ball? You know, are you familiar with LeVar Ball? So there's do you know Big Baller brand? So there's a basketball family, the Balls, right? So we have LaMelo Ball, who plays for the not LaMelo. We have Lonzo Ball, who plays for the Chicago Bulls. We have LaMelo Ball, who plays for the Charlotte Hornets. Very good young player. Both are good players. And then there's a third brother, LiAngelo, who he played like for the NBA Developmental League, and he did make it to an NBA team. So for the last 3 or 4 years, the father's been in the media. He's been talking about how great his kids are. They're better than Michael Jordan. He was doing everything. Well, it worked. It, like, all the publicity he brought, it worked because, one, it developed their brand. So these guys were already millionaires before they made it to the NBA, right? Because they developed the brand and they made it to the NBA. And people were arguing like, oh, this is like child abuse. You're forcing your kids to play. You don't let them talk. But the other side of it is also true. The kids say they love basketball. They say they want to play in the NBA. And the father knew, like, look, this is going to take some sacrifice and discipline. I might look like the bad guy at times, but you're going to get where you want to get, right? So I think that, you know, that balance is very important in figuring out, like, for example, if your kid has a natural, my kid, your kid, has a natural aptitude to become like an amazing neurosurgeon, right? And somehow at a young age, you just see that they have it. And you force them to become a gourmet chef, and they have no interest in being a gourmet chef. At that point, I'd be like, listen, you might want to ease up on them, chopping up the carrots and this and that, and let them, you know, chop up some spinal cords and, you know, things of that nature. But I think it's that balance and really figuring out what their passion, like what passions they have, but also putting them in the right environment to see their success, right? I think so. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It does. I'm just struggling internally because I am in a position where I am a professional athlete that trains 2 to 3 times a day, every single day. I live in my car. I'm a single mom, and I know that she deserves more time for extracurriculars that it's almost like I want her to be in these things, but like, how can I find a way to make it work with me needing to be focusing on like
Right.
me as a professional athlete? You know, I don't have my family that lives here. Thank God that my mom stayed for the last month for my fight before, and thank God that she's been with me this entire time that I've been in Las Vegas, but she normally doesn't live here. It's usually just me and Issa, that's it. And so like internally I feel bad because I feel like I'm soaking up all the extracurricular activities for my own living. You know, this is what I do for a living. And so I of course she's in jiu-jitsu, but that's just a given because she's in the gyms all the time. But aside from that, she should be exploring like gymnastics or tap dance or singing or, anything that normal other 4-year-olds are involved in. And she's just, stuck driving to, the jiu-jitsu gyms and the boxing gyms with me. So I feel I need to find a better balance to make sure that she gets some time to do things that she would like to explore.
She's also getting great firsthand experience in terms of, seeing what it means to be a successful in anything, right? As a business person, as a fighter, she's also gonna, through your connections, make connections for herself as she grows older. So there's also, it's great for you to acknowledge, these things that you could possibly focus more on, but at the same time, she's gonna get things that others would not get, right? So think about those things as well.
It's perspective, right? Like everything's about perspective and the way that you look at things, and you're completely right. You're so right. I was just talking about not wanting to burn her back out, and now I'm talking about throwing her in gymnastics at 4 years old. Like make up your mind. Do you want to push her and break her back, or do you want to let her grow up first? Actually, you're right. I want to let her grow up watching me bust my ass, so she knows that if she wants to make things happen in this life, that she's got to bust her ass too. Excuse my language.
Yeah. Life isn't easy, right? So it's important for them to see that resilience and perseverance and grit from their parents, so they understand that, like, it's a great story. Like you were not supposed to go down this. You're not supposed to have this trajectory, right? This was not necessarily what was in the cards for you, as they say. But because you worked hard, you didn't take no for an answer. You were willing to call people out. I mean, there's so many things that you can learn, even self-promotion. There's a benefit of self-promoting, right? Jumping on a live, jumping on an interview even when you don't want to, and to be number one, you're very like I know people say, you probably get tired of hearing it, but you're very articulate, right? It's very easy for you to explain and verbalize, what you're trying to say. Many people don't have that gift, so that's also a skill that she can see. Like, wow, mom kind of built this for herself. In a way, right? Because you were coming out, you were calling out Amanda, you were calling out the UFC, you were mentioning the story of how you were supposed to be the next in line, and this happened and that happened. So there's so many different lessons to be learned here, even from a purely business standpoint. Like for me, like you said in the beginning of the show, like that exchange of value, right? You want me to do something? Okay, you want A, what's B? Like, what do I get out of it? You're getting this, what am I getting out of it? So I would say, yeah, it's good to look at that. And as she gets older, she's probably what, 5 or 6?
She's 4.
She's 4. So she's still a little bit too young, but as she gets older, I would let her take a more active membership in, Julianna Pena LLC or whatever you're calling it.
It's called High Maintenance J.
Is it really or no?
It really is. LLC.
So let her take let her become an intern, or let her become an apprentice or a fellow.
A partner.
It's good.
She'll be CMO of High Maintenance J LLC.
That's what I'm trying to get my kids more busy in different things, right? Sometimes it's the non-conventional, non-traditional route, which they can't necessarily learn in school. I'm trying to have my kids make more videos. I'm having my kids think more out of the box. One good thing that I'll tell you of where you're at, there are some very good libraries in the area, like Skokie Library. Excellent. Yeah. So even whenever you get a chance, take her. They got like a 3D printer. They got all these different things that she can go in there and do related to STEM and related just to the fine arts. So I would say take whatever advantage you can of the local area you're in.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. I will. I take her to this library here in Jefferson Park, and we read a new book every night before bed. So I think I should venture out to some of these other libraries in the neighborhood and see what those ones are about too.
Yeah, Skokie's nice. Skokie's nice. So I know you got to get back home. So I'll give you the final word. If there's anything you want to say to the audience, I'll give you the final word, and then we'll part ways.
Let's see. Ultimate Fighter airs May 3rd. And you can follow me at Venezuelan Vixen. And I'm looking for more women followers, because I just got my demographics number. So trying to get the ladies up, and please be my fan, moms, daughters, sisters, whoever. But yeah, no, I'm just kidding. Thank you, Emron, for the opportunity. Thank you for the chance, and thank you for having me on the podcast again. I really appreciate it.
Our pleasure, Juliana. Take care. Looking forward to the Ultimate Fighter, and looking forward to the next fight.
All right, I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.
You
Bye.
Too. Bye-bye. Bye.